Good afternoon. Welcome to SHOWstudio. This is our first panel on Milan. We have a fantastic set of designers. Everybody here is a designer, runs their own label. Here to talk to you about Gucci Fall Winter 16. And Matthew, would you like to start the intros?
I'm Matthew Miller. I have a label of my name and I've shown with London Collections Men's from the start. I graduated from the Royal College of Arts around about 6 years ago and I've slowly built my label up over that time.
I'm Samuel Ross. I run a label called A Cold Wall. Prior to that, I spent a lot of time at the label Off-White and other streetwear houses. I did a lot of work for Stasi and cultural projects and other streetwear brands too.
My name is Gloria Flores. I'm London-based creative director and fashion designer. Under the name Hydra, I experiment with latex prototypes.
I'm Sebastiaan, Pieter, and I have a label called Pieter that shows at London Collection Men as well.
Hi, I'm Patrick Cox. I had my own label, Patrick Cox, for about 20-something years, which I left about 8 years ago. And then in the last 18 months, I've started up my own brand again, using my middle name, Lathbridge. Shoes.
It's always good to have a legend on the panel.
Never heard that name before in my life.
Lathbridge?
Lathbridge.
It's my great English uncle's last name. It's yeah. We even got Lathbridge.com because no one's called it. So
yeah, it's amazing.
For that.
That's cool. So, Gucci, I guess, as everybody knows, there was a big falling out a year ago. They got rid of the woman that had made the label so boring that nobody talked about it anymore. And
wasn't she in a love
partnership? Yeah. It was a partnership between
the
her
CEO.
And
Yeah.
And now they've got Alessandro Michel, who's had 2 fantastic collections under his belt. They've got loads of press, and I guess we're looking at what we think of the show. So why don't we look at the show and then start talking about it. And guys, you can talk. So we can start off while the first few slides are coming in. Often it's hard to know what to say as the first few. So just talk about what you think Gucci's doing right now. How
first
you feel
2
about
slides, you can see accessories straight away. 1, 2, accessories. And then pop culture comes into it. Luxury.
It feels for me the idea of what Gucci now is to what I was seeing a few years ago. It feels revitalized. It feels fresh. It's like a flamboyant luxury, which is good.
I really like the proportions, especially compared to the spring summer. It's the same vibe, but I think it's more current volumes.
T-shirt, how dare they?
And a lot of embroideries.
To me, as a elder statesman on the panel, I just we all need to be careful as designers, because designers used to be considered tradesmen and they used to come in by the back door and weren't allowed in the front door, and now we're all like fabulous and glamorous and go to every dinner party in the world. But the way fashion is going in this revolving door of designers, we're going to be coming in the back door if we're not careful. Frida Giannini did amazing things, and if you remember when she came in, she sort of slagged off Tom and she took the sales up, and then it didn't go as well as, everybody has ups and downs in their careers. And now everybody's going on about Alessandro Michele and everything, and his time will come, and it's this constant changing with Belle Albaz leaving, Raf Simons leaving. Designers have to be very careful, I think, in the way the world is going today. We're treated as racehorses, as commodities by these big stables. And, he's great. What he's doing is great now, but give it 4 or 5 seasons, and then the fashion people get bored, and they start yawning during his shows, and whoop, next.
But I think with Frida, you could see that she didn't have a passion for menswear. It sort of was an afterthought, the whole design process.
Yeah, but they sacked her for everything.
I completely agree with that. With Frida, I don't think there was any clear idealism to buy into.
Yeah. Well,
I don't necessarily think we've seen this idealism yet of what this young designer's doing with Gucci, but she didn't create it. Whereas you go to Tom Ford, the idealism was sex. It was there. It was on the plate. It was in your face. It was iconic. The advertising, the clothes, everything about it, communication, design, fabrication. Everything was communicating a singular message that you wanted to be a part of. Frida failed to do that.
You're
And that's the
saying-
problem with it. And it's not the fact that she wasn't a good designer. I don't think she had a great vision for it because she didn't care enough about it, or she didn't get it, or she didn't want to, or it was just, you know, coming after Tom Ford was, you know,
Iconic.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to fail no matter what
yeah.
you take on.
You're saying something very true, and you said something completely true. We always seem to forget that a fashion designer now, yes, he's the face of the label, but he's not the designer that used to be in the 80s anymore. It's not like the label. Labels now are like these huge economic monsters, like beautiful dragons. And so everything is ruled by an amazing marketing strategy, and the designer is a very important part of it.
Yeah.
A catalyst for it, in a sense.
Well, you create a vision, and unless that vision has a marketing potential and it has a story, you know, and I keep going back to an idealism, there's nothing to market. Unless you have something that people want to buy into, there's nothing to market to.
But what I'm saying
So you
is,
have to create, as a vision, as a look,
Yeah,
you have to
yeah,
create
yeah.
something that has a philosophy behind it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that as designers, we all come from that background. We all become designers because we have an obsession that becomes our life. The thing is, when you're a designer of a huge label like Gucci, then the most important thing is to be the right person according to what everybody else think is the right way.
I don't know.
I
A lot of
know,
people are challenging. A lot
yeah.
of people are, you know, when people arrive at labels, people hate. I mean, Hedi Slimane.
Yeah.
Love hate.
They're doing
Huge
actually
commercial
something
reality.
very similar.
But half the people hate him and want him gone.
But
Yeah,
do we
yeah,
have
yeah.
to? But do you have to divide
But this
market?
is-
Not everyone has to love you.
No, no.
And this is what's
No, no,
great
no.
about
When
Hedi
everyone
Slimane.
does, you're on your way out.
Yeah,
If you,
yeah.
I would say.
exactly. If you can divide a market, the people who believe in you will go out their way to buy it. The people who hate you will go out their way to say that they hate you. And that's
Yeah.
the beauty
All
of
press
Hedi
is good
Slimane.
press.
Is
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
he divides the market, but people who believe in him really go and
It's
buy
still
it.
polarizing
Yeah.
in a sense,
Yeah.
you know. It has to evoke something with each collection. At least it feels under like the new creative director there is like, well, I feel like there's like a new life that's been pushed into Gucci again. It's been revitalized, which is good, you know.
I think it's definitely being noticed. I mean, it is. I love it, but it is very vintage.
Yeah, there's
when you go
incredible-
into the
Yeah.
shop, it does feel like you're in a flea store, in a flea market.
I'd
store,
say for me it's whimsical. And
Yeah.
it is a well, I'd like to say a masculine man. It's not for me. I don't buy into it, but this is when it's probably going to divide hate or love,
Yeah.
and hopefully it's
Well,
going
it's
to do
pushing
that.
that new androgyny to the nth degree. I mean,
But for me,
men's
it's
and
J.D.
women's
Anderson light.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not, it's
yeah.
not it's not quite there.
Yeah.
It's diet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whether or not he manages to transfer this into sales, I do not know, and that's where he's going to live or die. Or fall on his own sword. It's based on sales, and there's an incredible Business of Fashion article based on the predictions of Gucci's sales.
Where are they going to go?
Exactly.
It's like 0.01% up. or
Exactly,
something.
and
It's
then
like, well,
0.3% in the next year.
That's not a boom.
And the thing is, Gucci hit an all-time low in terms of sales under Frida. Not that, you know, she's a bad designer. I just don't think, you know, coming after Tom Ford, she was going to fall on her own sword, and someone else is going to have to take it in a new direction. But, you know, to only grow it by 0.3%, I think is quite disappointing. To come up with a new vision, a new designer.
Yeah.
But what's going on with the accessories? Because surely, I mean, I remember sort of a year ago, I had a friend who was going to work there, and I said, "Oh, that's good, but you know what the hell is going on? Because, you know, if one brand can be Louis Vuitton, it's this brand, and it just seems to be completely lost." And what's going on? Because surely that's the entire point of all of this, is to sell handbags and sell.
Fragrance.
And so, I know I say this on every panel, but very much with Gucci, I mean, the point is to sell a
It's
loafer,
another good house.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's clothes.
Yeah.
And a belt.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, to me, what he's done, and it's because of all that 70s kitsch sort of aspect of what he's done, and that's when logos were, to me, cool. I didn't really get logo mania in the 80s and 90s, but, you know, big double G belt in the 70s was the ultimate. To me, he's revisited the stripe, he's revisited, you know, all those materials and everything with the double G's and everything, and then stuck florals or hummingbirds or embroidery or something on it. So it's still the same thing underneath, but he's managed to make it look new and fresh.
Yeah.
And by adding embroidery, which costs thousands of pounds onto it, you know, then it even takes it to a deluxe category.
I mean, you look at the hats, you know, the hats that have just been shown, you know, they're going to be everywhere. It's fun, it's whimsical, it's a completely new take on it. The bags, the glasses on how many looks.
And everything.
And even
it's geek chic, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's celebrating the kids at school that got beaten up.
And even if I'm not particularly sure that this sort of total look is gonna work for men, I'm pretty sure that I can tell that the new direction is so bold and it connects so much also with the women's wear, with the floral bags. So probably they're ready to sacrifice a little bit of selling the menswear jacket or the menswear floral suit for the bigger picture.
It's almost like a release of tension
bold
as well, it feels like, they've had this like tight jacket on and now it's kind of been like, they've been freed. So hopefully like things will filter down and sell through. But for me, when I look at it, just under the creative directors, it does feel like a freedom again. Like, hey, we're back. But it doesn't feel forced, it just feels new. They feel like new again.
Yeah.
But do you see the Gucci Russian woman walking around wearing some of this? Or the Gucci Russian gangster guy
they were not really
walking around?
It's kind of
they were the markets that were working. It was the West and Europe that was dead. But those emerging markets in China and Russia and everything, and Azerbaijan and whatever, that want to be bling. That's not bling. That's quirky, eccentric, eclectic. You can say all sorts of words, but it's not bling, and it's certainly not masculine.
But it's still ostentatious, and it's just not about these markets. They're not just bling. They see it as being ostentatious. They want to wear their wealth.
You see it at 100 miles. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, you're definitely right on that.
Nothing concealed there whatsoever. And again, what he's doing, the over embroidery, the over accessorizing. It's almost like it's vulgar in a way.
Is it me, or is this... I know that there's, detailing, but in terms of silhouette, this is a hell of a lot more commercial than the last two shows.
Yeah.
Because what I see is that the designers have been beating us over the head with this 70s thing, and it's not getting any traction whatsoever. Like, there's just not... It's not like I see Larry B wearing flares, that's it. Like, I don't see flares on the street. I don't see 70s pussy bows on men on the street, and it's been a while, and I could be wrong, like it might be about to happen, but this collection says it isn't happening.
But to me, the basic premise of this, it does look like old Prada, which is again very
my
vintage.
God, yes,
it's so Prada. It's even with all the embroidery, it's got bits of Cavalli. Cavalli was great and came out.
I think Prada's much cleaner than this.
Yeah, but the silhouette
the
and the moneyness and the vintage, it doesn't have all that on top of it, granted, but it is a continual dialogue in Milan because all the designers know each other and all their assistants sleep with each other. And it is very hard to actually do something new in Milan because everybody knows, like, we're all doing circus. And everybody goes off and does circus. So it is.
One of the great things that a tutor ever told me, or asked me, or I was in a conversation with at the RCA, was Wendy Dagwood, when she turned around, she said to a girl designer who was designing menswear, and she made it very feminine, is, would you fuck this man?
Yeah.
The bare basics of it. Would you fuck this person?
But then, like, you have
I think there is a new aesthetic.
Everything, so
personally, no, but there is a new aesthetic, isn't there? There is, like you said earlier, the Bowie-esque aesthetic.
Yeah.
Skinny boys.
But you have, like, Harry Styles wearing that, and there's loads of girls that want to fuck Harry Styles, so, that might just change the perspective.
True, maybe
I think that's
masculine.
Despite his clothes, not because of his clothes.
No, but it pushes a look onto, like, girls, this is what I want, and, like, then, other boys are going to dress like that.
Actually, he was so bullied. Because of his floral outfit.
The Gucci.
You're always going to get maybe this is where the genius is involved in this. It divides people, and again, going back to what we said earlier, if you can divide people and say, I like it so much, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to go full into it, and I'm going to go, excuse the term, balls deep. I suppose. Go so far into it, you will buy everything about it, and then the people who hate it will go so far out of their way to just trying to destroy it. You create a market.
And, absolutely. And at the same time, I insist on the fact that probably boys are not going to wear that, but next couple of weeks, everything in Zara is going to look like that. And every single girl in the world is going to wear 70s embroidered whatever. So it's still an unconscious way of have Gucci in your mind. So it's quite clever.
I mean, and everybody said like, nobody would ever wear Rick Owens. And for the last 10 years, every most masculine man, when you see people selling drugs in running tights, You're like, Rick Owens did that, you know? Rick Owens made that guy walk up to that car, do that transaction in those running tights.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's taken Rick Owens 20 years to do that.
I think
and it waves as well.
I think it's tribal. It's about finding
And
your
it felt
tribe.
new as
There is
well.
a tribe that dresses like that.
Yeah, I think like
and they can buy into it. I don't think
if you take a couple of those pieces, like I think anybody could wear that. It's really easy to wear. It's just like as a full look, it's just a little bit extreme, and as a show, it's just really intense.
And also,
if you just like, you know, I mean, I could wear some of that. It's not my style, but I'll
maybe like the
definitely find
overcoats
it.
could maybe sell through, but aside from that, that's it.
Well, I'd like to go to just back to everybody's point a little bit. The point you started off with the designer being very much, look, these are big conglomerates, right? They have to answer to their shareholders, and very much they're trying to put the creative in a box. You know, this is why everybody's dropping out. This is, and when you think about Jean-Paul Gaultier or Thierry Mugler, those people were insane. Yet their perfumes still sell 20 years later with just because it's got their name on it. And I think that's quite interesting. You know, you're all designers. You're probably at that stage, or will soon be, or have been at stages where you've been asked to work for big houses. What do you think about this? You know, the CEO said he was picking out the looks, and he didn't even keep it secret. He put it in the Business of Fashion interview. You know, he was picking out the looks.
You know what? And I think the word. Remember, you highlighted
when the CEO starts picking looks out, it's time to just say.
But when he said normalness,
But it's
when he
always
said
like
he was
that in
hired for his
labels.
normalness,
Always.
to me that's a quote reference to drugs, basically. When I in 2000 was selling my company to LVMH, there was a turbocharge clause as they listed it. And it was just their way of saying you can't be involved in this and this and this. And of course, they've had lots of people, which I won't name, that do drugs as head designers. And I think that's what they were trying to buy into with Alessandro Michele, was trying to find someone who came from a different vibe.
But the point is, Calvin Klein was apparently, look, I don't think there's any legal thing, but apparently, you know, like Calvin, people are unconventional. Let's talk about Donatella, because she admits it in interviews. It's like they are, all the genius designers are off their tits, like all the geniuses except for Karl Lagerfeld
And
are off their
Well, it
tits.
probably is. Just on different drugs. You know?
He just drinks Diet Coke. And you know,
lots of
Just off his
sexy guys
tits on
in
Diet
it.
Coke then, basically.
He
I
surrounds
mean,
himself with,
you go back
pretty
into this
boys.
about why do people, and you want to start talking about drug abuse and alcohol abuse, why do people take drugs? You know, it's you start thinking about it, it's either pressure from a multinational billion-pound company and escapism. So is it a pressure of their job, or is it their mentality?
But it's because they live at 1,000 miles an hour. You know, I was saying to a friend the other day, if you look at all the most fantastic bits of pop culture, what you've got is 18-year-old kids or 20-year-old kids being given jobs by people, and what happens is they understand that they're a kid, and they understand that, you know, when Andrew Lou Goldman is employed, the people employing him understood that he was a kid who understood rock and roll because he was a teenager who went out all the time. And now the mentality is, we need to find that person to be a creative who doesn't understand rock and roll, doesn't understand the culture. And what's the point of that? How does that work?
It works for the board of directors because you're not gambling on someone who's on the edge. That's where it works for them.
It's become finance has become involved.
Exactly.
Like finance destroyed the film industry, finance destroyed the music industry, finance is very busy destroying the fashion industry. You know, when I started my brand, there was no such thing as an IPO or an exit strategy. You know, there was no such thing. I mean, I think Chanel was the first brand that existed post the death of the designer. You know, and now it's like you dying is, you know, inconsequential to your shareholders. It might actually be better. It might actually be better. I mean, you know, without being horrible, look at McQueen. You know, the sales go up. You know, because then they go, now we can make a little fiddle and this and that, and we can celebrate this and that. I mean, it's tragic. But that's the way it is.
It's almost scheduled already. You know,
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah.
And this is where something becomes iconic. And when something becomes iconic, like you say, even with Thierry Mugler, or you go back to Jean-Paul Gaultier, they did things in the 80s that were fucking iconic. And what they've managed to do is the large shareholders and the system behind it is managed to take that image of something that's iconic and mass produce it and sell it to a mass market.
But designers used to be in charge. I remember being backstage at a Mugler Montana show, and you would just shoo off the CEO if the CEO was even there. I mean, normally Mugler was his own CEO. I was my own CEO for 20 years. There was no such thing. I mean, we were all a lot more amateur hour, admittedly, and it was a lot more innocent, and there weren't hundreds of thousands of people trying to get into a show. There'd be like, I jumped the barrier at almost every show I went to because there was no security and only 200 people were going in anyway to a Gucci show, so jump it.
I think it's still like that. It's just that we have to change point of view. Obviously, Gucci is not Gucci anymore, and I don't know, Dior is not Christian Dior. It's not that they are ruled by money. They are companies. There's so many people, millions of people that count on that industry, on that.
The money, the finance, jobs.
It gives jobs to people, and I used to, as a young designer.
Creativity also creates jobs.
Yeah. Exactly, it's creativity not anymore in the finishing. It's creativity on a massive level.
In the things that we're doing, and just say, well, this is what we've got. Let's protect it.
Yeah.
It's like this is what we've got, but how can we evolve?
But I think that the very, very important task, the duty that we have as young designers, is to remember that we are not that label, that they used to be different, and I don't know, I experienced having my own label.
Whether you have 1 employee or 1,000 employees, you have to take care of them all exactly the same.
Yeah, but let's say it's easier when you're but as a young designer, it's not even about producing the product and selling the product to the cool independent shop anymore. I mean, it is like that, but it shouldn't. As a designer who's starting something, you should focus on creating your vision, on building the bonds of what is going to be eventually the new Gucci.
Also building an infrastructure as well.
Yeah, but most of the time we get powered by that because we act in a structure that is structured around big labels. So we can't. It's delusional for a young designer.
Exactly, but this is where, as a young designer, you just scrap. You don't have to follow the big companies.
Exactly.
But what you have to do, and what we need to do, is you need to build an infrastructure that works, but an infrastructure that works for you and for your clients and for your consumer.
Completely agree. And that means taking risks, and sometimes taking risks is to create your own structure. There is not even probably in the fashion business. You just step out and do your own thing and.
Let me just because I haven't heard that much from Samuel and Pieter, Sebastiaan, and actually just because this brings me, because you're somebody who is struggling against quite a few conventions. So you're saying I don't want to do a runway. You're saying
no. We only sell privately online. I'm only doing retail if I get the opportunity to do like an art installation. So we did one in Harvey Nichols in July. Just did one in Rotterdam in December. Those are the only times I'm working on. I wanted this to kind of feel more like an art project that has the ability to sell through and just like blur the lines of like how streetwear can be looked at too, So it is kind of like a new model that I'm building along the way. I'm about to enter retail with like a few accounts, but only a select few, So yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying. Well, I agree with both of you. You need an infrastructure. You can't just wildly create shit or you'll be gone in like 6 months, 9 months. But then you also need to have, as young designers, a responsibility to feel fluid in you as well.
You need to create your own business model.
Yeah.
But why are you? Because I think it's interesting. So you're trying to fight against the retail model at the moment. Why is your reason?
Yeah. The retail model or the wholesale model?
Wholesale. Yeah.
So you love your own store.
Yeah.
If you look and you go into the whole research that's been done on the retail model at the moment, it's multi-brand retail stores are not the future. The future is own retail. The margins and the way that people shop anymore, the way that we interact with.
Well, also buyers are terrified, as I said, finance coming in. They don't look at your collection. They look at their spreadsheets and what they sold through last season, and they come through and they're like, "Did you do that in beige?" You're like, well, "What?" And well, beige was our best-selling color last season. Well, maybe it won't be this season.
This is the thing.
Maybe pink will be this season. And who knows? And they're like, I mean, they literally come because they're terrified.
The world's changing.
The pressure is just, you know.
And you can't expect retail to stay in its stagnation, kind of the stagnated form of what it was and what was what was created hundreds of years ago. It's fucking changing, and because we don't have the old system in place. It's up to us to change it.
Yeah,
it's much more fluid for the young generation because everything has been questioned.
Just
I mean, New York may be showing on season. I mean, everything is just, because it's obvious fashion.
And that's actually another reason why I've chose not to go into wholesale, is I have like this ability to change shit and add designs like 2 days before going to sell, 2 days before showing, 2 days before I can literally, the latest lookbook, it dropped, like as I said a few hours ago, I was still like crafting garments as we were shooting and throwing them on back and forth. I had a print here, I had my printer on deck. If I'm in if I've committed to wholesale accounts, it's so much more harder to kind of change designs and shift ideas. This way it allows me to build in essence a cult following and cultivate that over time. I think there's less importance to really look after retailers now, in a sense, especially when you see
I beg to differ with that. I think you need both, and I don't think you can just cut one off and do one on yourself. You need to have
I think you do need
a reactive business.
But I think in terms of priority, the focus on trying to retain on the label and what the label stands for and how the design should progress, and thinking about the audience before the retailer.
Exactly, and then the retailer comes naturally. I would say it's not a struggle. Otherwise, it takes.
But what I'm saying is once you get the retailer, you still need to take care of that retailer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but you give them your own, limitations. You say
at least 3 months in advance of delivery.
Exactly.
So changing it at the last minute
is
not going to work for a retailer.
Well,
look exactly
probably.
like the same. What do you mean you decided it looks newer now?
This is the thing. Now, because I'm about to jump into retail in the next 3 to 6 months, I'm having to almost split a collection between what can specifically go for wholesale and the more obscure pieces will just sell online or in installation situations. So I'm learning to kind of cater to both as I go along.
Is the Gosha Palace Supreme model something that eventually the luxury brands will just have to give up and do? Because is the idea that you just do, because Gosha, anything any one of those free brands does sells out, They don't need to show it to the but I think it's
stores. A different market. It's not luxury.
It's cult.
It's
train spotting. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, but the thing is that this market,
I'm not saying that the market wouldn't want a similar thing, but I think in the end luxury is not about there's a new product, we all need to have it because we don't all have the money to buy it instantly. But I think luxury like Gucci or what we're trying to do is also about a retail experience, coming in, being treated in a certain way.
You can't afford that bag, but you buy the perfume, you buy the makeup. And it's exclusively being inclusive.
Yeah, but isn't there the problem?
Alienate markets.
Isn't there the problem though of the stuff looking, because it is 6 months old when it gets in the show. Because the problem is
that's the problem that we now need to figure out in that market, because you're kind of bored. It's that Prada thing where you always were excited about when the product collection comes out, you want to have it. The new product collection comes out, you want to have that collection. The last one, it's not in the store yet. You're not buying it anymore.
Exactly.
And I think,
it's been Instagrammed. It's been put on a bunch of dogs.
The thing is this goes back
in the store. It seems like it's old.
And this is not a problem of just designers and retailers. This is a problem with social media, and it's a problem with journalists. Yeah. You're so quickly to report and consume everything that you're always after the next thing, that everything's been forgotten, and there's nothing connecting anything anymore. And it's it's so disjointed all over the place. As a designer, as a retailer, as a journalist, nothing works together anymore. And we need to just reassess the whole.
Because this seems to strike me with Milan in particular, doesn't seem to be connecting with, to bring it back to Gucci. It's great. He did a couple of collections that reset the brand. Great. But what I see in Milan is a fashion, this is the big fashion business, this is the big menswear week. But, there seems to be very little connection with the issues of the day, how the hell do you compete with these brands? How the hell, is Milan, what do you guys think? I
don't think new ideas come out of Italy, personally, from someone who Monday to Friday for 25 years has been working in Italy. Italy's traditionalists, they're dragged into the 21st century.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case in the 80s, was it? In the 70s?
But
No,
that's
that
where
was
we are.
entrepreneurship. That was just craft. It was more like people who were small learning how to make something. Who made a suit well, Zegna. Who made a shoe well, Gucci, or whatever. Booming. It was what happened in Italy with that post-industrial boom because they were very late.
But that's the thing.
But I don't think that was necessarily visionary.
No, I think that was, but we are, as Italian, I tell you, as a person who studied fashion in Milan, I tell you that we are stuck in the 80s.
Yeah.
In a glorious, nostalgic way,
Yeah.
but
You just need a very morbid, but you just need a generation to die. And just to reset itself.
But trust me,
That's
that
all.
generation is still buying
Completely
Gucci bags.
I think it's also its cultural, the hinterland though, right? Because as Patrick said, the peculiar case about Italy in the 70s and 80s was the huge population boom, the huge economic boom. They had the Prime Minister was doing speeches about Il Sorpasso, sorry if I get it wrong, but when their economy got bigger than Britain's, and people were like, this is great, like the place is booming, and now Italians are literally dying out. So there's not this. It's an rapidly aging population.
Yeah, we've always been a population of nostalgics. Before the 80s, it was the Romans.
Yeah.
It's just in our nature, and we love it.
But it's almost like going
It's
back
romantic. It's romantic.
Absolutely.
Look at the clothes. They're romantic.
And the reason why Gucci is so huge is because after the war, all we wanted was La Dolce Vita.
Dolce Vita.
You know, but it's almost like going back to this collection. It kind of, to me, it kind of connects the dots to like, you know, when Italy was in its heyday, almost like a reintroduction to, hey, we're here again. You know, I was there like 2 weeks ago, and it felt quite dire. This doesn't feel like, you know, how I imagine it, but this feels like the architecture that makes the city so great. It feels very like luxurious still.
But the Italian-looking things and Italian branded made things are still ruling the world.
Yeah.
But they've just they spent since the 80s educating Chinese people how to make shoes, educating whatever how to make clothes, and now all those people make those shoes and clothes, sometimes owned by Italian companies,
but
now
also,
not, and it's come back and bit them in the ass. They've trained all these people, they do it at 1/10 of the cost, and now they're closing. I mean, when I started in this one region of Italy, the Marche, there were 20,000 factories, now there's 2,000.
I
That's
still
a lot
think
gone in 20 years.
I still think that craft is a luxury, and I still think that it doesn't matter if you can teach 1,000 Chinese people how to make a pair of shoes. I still think that luxury is the fact that you know that one person driven by a life of experience was able to make that pair in a week, and that pair is now yours. Is the engagement of the buyer, like the customer, with the life of this person who dedicated his time.
Well, what brand has that anymore?
Exactly.
I mean, Louis Vuitton.
Exactly.
And
the
yeah.
maker of their bag.
It's an idea.
It's
an idea. I personally try to perpetuate that. As a young designer, I feel the duty to do that.
But you could
Then
argue
I
that China have got the same thing now. You know, they've been manufacturing for years.
Yeah,
it's not
trust
like they
me.
just did it for 10 years.
But they don't have the same approach.
I feel like the
But,
idea of
but
luxury
you could argue that even though it's a developing country, well, it's a mega economy, but they've been making products for years and decades.
Yeah, but they are makers.
But why haven't they now got a craft?
It's different. Because
You could
their
argue-
culture
you
is
could-
the culture
You
of...
could argue craft for every country and every continent and everything that goes with it.
No, because the Chinese craftsman is never gonna evolve into the new Valentino. Valentino was
Why
a
not? Yeah, they're starting to invest more and more and more and more. And
because
actually,
in Chinese mentality,
in China,
you
it's
do
becoming
what
really expensive to produce clothes. So a lot of bigger brands are actually moving production away because it's becoming more craft-like.
I think it's different to learn or to be born with a certain, way of thinking.
I think you
just
notice
think
that when you
different.
talk to Italian designers, you know, the way they talk about their factories, you know, like they know the names of the people that make the clothes.
But you
But
get
is that-
that,
There's
you get
always
that
a
all
very
over the
big
world.
engagement.
Come
But
on,
that doesn't
no,
make the
that's-
product relative as
like,
well.
you
There's
go
a
to
nice
Port-
notions of
Yeah,
business.
exactly.
Portugal,
Most
no,
of the
no,
time
it's
it's
not
a
about-
family
it's not
business.
about
You
nice
can
notion.
go to China and you can go and meet and you can
Yeah.
still. It's not like there's this massive misconception about what manufacturing is and what it achieves and the skills and this is
it
where
can-
Europe's arrogance fails
It can
itself.
come back. I mean, look at England. There was no manufacturing in
Yeah.
England, and now there's like handbag lines and clothing lines making in England. There's some shoe lines that are made in England. I mean, I left in '87 because there was just there was nothing. You could not make anything here. It was all completely gone. And now with this idea of, eco miles on your product or this or that, or just designers just really fed up of having to go to the armpit of the world to go make my product. I would love to stay in London and take a bus or a tube or a train and go make some shoes. It's not really going to happen for what I do right now. But hopefully Northamptonshire, Wellingborough, Rushden, all that
it's
shit. They're doing good stuff like Grenson and stuff like that, but it's still very traditional. If you try to do something a little bit out of the box, they just kind of look at you blank.
Yeah. But how important is that to your idea of luxury within your brand? Like,
I would love made in England on every single thing.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what we're selling anymore. We're selling an image. We're selling a dream.
No, we're also,
and if that's craft is part of that, but I don't think that.
I think Britishness should never be underestimated.
I think for Gucci, it needs that name because that sells a luxury. As a young designer, as a new design brand, you don't necessarily need that.
Yeah. Imagine
because
that
you're setting yourself up against a Gucci, and your price points won't work because
imagine these clothes
you haven't got the
table. Would we all be sitting
want
here?
Gucci made in Italy.
Probably not.
You know what I mean? They want that.
I was also thinking about Rome because Gucci's now based in Rome, isn't it? Because I think the interesting. I always think, well, one, Florence, Pitti, Florence, a lot of the brands that sell at Pitti don't have this problem of not being modern, don't have this problem of not having a modern image. But then just thinking of Rome, and obviously when you think of Rome, you think of the Roman Empire, and maybe the Italians need to think about that. Think about being at the heart of this multinational network.
Instead of thinking,
well, there was the invading, raping, and pillaging, but there was also the fact.
Educating.
There was also
building roads.
Wait, though. There was also the fact that it was a place where you had countries in Africa and Asia that were on an equal footing. You had, it was probably the world's first multicultural city.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with Italy right now is that it revolved. Milan's got a bit more interesting in the last 5 years because it's got a little bit more international feeling. I mean, when I first went there, sort of 12 years ago, it felt like.
Well, all the Japanese designers showed in Paris, didn't they? So
I think that's the problem with Italy is that they need to learn to speak English. It's that thing of we're all still telling you to buy into Italy, but really we don't want to go to Italy anymore.
I think the issue there is the empire. Italy, except for Mussolini and Abyssinia, never conquered the world. I mean, the French. Even if you don't speak French, you speak French.
And why those why those many Italian brands fail for me, I think, is because they're not communicating in the digital way that London brands are, or American brands are. We are much closer to what's new in this world.
Let's not forget though, Italy and the Italian brands own a lot of the pie.
They're manufacturing, if not.
They're making the pies. You know what I mean?
They're making it.
Yeah. And they own a lot of the value.
They're made in Italy.
Yeah, but I think if you're looking at what people are interested in, it's like.
But that comes back to what you were saying about empires and owning and having first priority of where we look to. They don't really have that history for us to be able to do that.
It's not a multicultural society.
Yeah.
I mean, I love living in London because you go to Portobello and you see everything, every color, every culture, because England conquered the world and then it all came back and lived here.
But it's not
so there you go.
But it's not multicultural. It's not not multinational, which I think is a problem. Is that there's not, there isn't people living there that from other countries, maybe in Portofino or Capri or whatever, there's Russian billionaires.
It's changing. In Milan, there's D Squared, they're Canadian. There's Neil Verrett, he's English. There are people. It isn't just everybody who's international and good shows in Paris. Now people are moving around the world. They're bouncing to one show in New York, one show here. I think people are becoming very much more nomadic in fashion. They're not tied to one city.
Yeah, but if everything digital, it doesn't matter where you show anymore that much. It's it's more about what city has the image that you relate to as a designer.
For the Instagram photo.
We're starting to see brands are much more nomadic now. It's you don't need to constantly go to London and show.
Oh, Henny's moved the headquarters of Yves Saint Laurent Paris to LA. I mean, what? I mean, that's just Tom moved Gucci to London when he lived here.
Just moved the mountain to other people.
It's just it's a mountain. Yeah, how about the mountain?
I still think that it's nice to have Fashion Week that is structured almost like if it was a human being life. So you have London, that is the child, and it's no, No, it's in a
petulant child.
It's like, wow, it's so
Awful
unpredictable and a little rough, but so inspiring. Then you have Milan. There is this very annoying posted. Yeah, almost. It's like after teenagers. So it's this warrior, just money, selling, pret-à-porter. And then you have Paris. There is this very content, beautiful, 50 years old woman. And somewhere in between there's New York. I still didn't figure out what it is.
Let's Stoke-on-Trent.
But I think, yeah. But I think that, I don't know, somehow it's fascinating to see as if they complete each other. Like, I don't want Milan Fashion Week to become like London Fashion Week, to become like Paris Fashion Week, and everything would be so flat and boring.
But like in the meantime,
everything needs to be evolved. London is evolved.
But evolving doesn't
Don't you just secretly wish that every British designer would come back and show London? It would be the best fashion week in the world.
No, but
I've wanted that since I moved here, okay? It's just, why does everyone good have to leave and do, you know, we all get up to our
Can we have just one
intermediate
fashion
stage,
week?
and as soon as, you know, you turn over crosses, whatever you show in London, you show in New York, Paris.
But do you not think, like,
it'd be great.
with everything happening in Asia, like, I was talking to someone, like, a couple weeks ago, being like, I think, like, in a couple of years' time, we'll all be talking about Korea Fashion Week and, like, Shanghai Fashion Week or wherever it's happening.
Hopefully.
I think
like,
decades.
Yeah.
you know, with
so. No,
everything that's out there and the market being so important, I think the fact that we're still talking about Milan and Paris, like,
Yeah, I think you just
it's
hit the
gonna
nail
go.
on the head.
It's not
It's
gonna.
like Korea is booming. It's the centre of Asian. It's like it's exciting. You know, you've got tech companies, you've got fashion companies, you've got art companies, you've got everything there, and it's leading the market in this massive content. And it's quite ignorant that we all sit around talking about Western civilization. In actual fact,
it's not going to happen here anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
But I've gone to Tokyo Fashion Week since the 80s. It's just the same.
Yeah, but not
that's
anymore
Tokyo,
because
they're all acolytes of
if you look at Korea, you look at Seoul and what they've done in the last 20 years in terms of technology, you know, Samsung is on par with Apple. No other country or technology companies managed to do that. That's how like revolutionary they are and radical thinking. They just keep going and going and going and going. Their communication, their K-pop. You know, even look at the
Well,
imports.
doesn't this bring us back to the point that the thing that Gucci are forgetting is that when Tom Ford did his Studio 54 collection, it was current. It summed up a lot of other things. There was a revival in interest in mid-century design throughout the population. We were throwing away that horrendous 80s idea of like Victoriana, like that horrendous kind of moral majority, like Victorian values idea. Laura Ashley, awfulness. And we were going, let's drink in modern bars, let's have modern architecture. IKEA were advertising on TV saying throw out your chintz. People wanted to connect with what was going on. And Gucci, this is when the first collection Michaela did connected with what was going on. I don't know if
it's Brooklyn, it's hipster. You're just missing beards and tattoos.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
Is this him trying to do Saint Laurent because
it's Portlandia?
Yeah, it's quite Saint Laurent. Yeah,
it's Portlandia. That's what it is.
With a budget.
Exactly. But yeah, again, going into it, he's got good business sense because look at the accessories.
Yep. Well, again, an accessories designer that got, Valentino, the accessories designer, got handed the keys to the palace. Look what they did. It's the revenge of the accessories designers, kids.
I mean, bags and accessories is what sells, basically.
Yeah. And they have the margins.
I mean, shall we talk about how genius was the Gucci gram?
A tracksuit. Like
what's the Gucci gram?
The Gucci Instagram.
Yeah.
Basically, they called a lot of, the most amazing emerging designers like Amalia Woolman, Claudia Mate, I think her name is, to do literally Gucci adverts, and that was genius.
But this looks more relevant and current to me than the show, not just because it's that, but because when I think about Louis Vuitton, I know they're trying to sell the clothes thing now, but like they got successful because of the bags.
Yeah,
Fendi because of the bags.
Yeah. And if you notice, catwalk is not that cool, but then you go on Instagram and it's super cool. And what do they advertise on Instagram with the young, beautiful net artist? Bags.
Yeah.
I still don't really feel like, to be honest, the Instagram for me, like being like a young 20-something, it's still not that relevant. People aren't checking for it in my generation. It's almost like we're speaking about, you know, how Gucci's trying to like revitalize their image and whatnot, but to my generation, it's almost like they can't. They're so like.
You mean Instagram's not relevant, or Gucci's?
Gucci's like infinite to how like people at my generation look at it, in terms of that it can't really change. It's almost like a cycle that won't shift away from what they've already done and their heritage. You know, so Instagram, them having it is great, but we're not looking out for that. Young creatives aren't looking at Gucci's Instagram and thinking aspirational or inspiration.
No. They do it for different reasons, but they are there. So someone who is not that young anymore thinks, "Oh my God, I buy Gucci and it's so cool because the Instagram, the net artist is involved." But so I am still young and cool.
But it's like, what level are they trying to
enough to buy
like,
Gucci.
you know, allow people to aspire to, and who do they want to market to? Because this collection feels quite outlandish. So I don't know if they're trying to hit like a more art forward thinking market with it, or
aren't they really trying to sell a key fob though?
Yeah,
aren't they really trying to sell a key fob?
But should something die, let's say that, should something have a life, you know, birth, a life and a death,
but this is,
and then allow that to happen again? Why, like, is this a problem with luxury? That the fact that we try to keep everything alive.
Well, this is absurd idea of heritage, but nothing's more than 100 years old.
Again.
Exactly. Who said when their label dies, it dies with them?
Yeah,
no, but this is, I mean,
when said, I have no plans for succession. When I die, my label dies.
When a designer dies, the label dies.
King's reign should die with him.
Yes, and it did. Didn't you notice? Every huge label that has, you know, the designer working for it and the CEO working for it and blah, 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 all this business, is not that label anymore. The label is dead. This is an afterlife thing. It's a business. It's very different. No, it's a business. It's a completely different thing. And we should stop being angry about it. It's just a business. Life carries on without that brand, and this is a business.
Yeah, it's a bit. So, what relevance? That's the question. Is what the relevance we're all talking about is this and a designer. So, what relevance does it have apart from a cash cow?
Apart from the double G,
well, that's its relevance.
The branding stripe.
What's its relevance?
It could be anything.
A new design.
My point of view,
from everyone's point of view, what is the relevance
it's
of
a
a
commercial
label?
entity in its way that has power of
it
getting
doesn't
people.
feel relevant.
It's sales.
It's not really
Relevance
It's
is in
1,000
the
stores
sales.
worldwide, so you know, even if they put out a turd, it's going to be seen in 1,000 stores.
Golden
The
turd.
golden turd. I mean, not saying anything bad about this stuff, but you know, when you have distribution, you can kind of put out anything.
Yeah.
And if it's seen enough and it's photographed enough, it becomes relevant.
But we shouldn't.
It's the emperor's new clothes.
We shouldn't feel offended. Like, ooh, I'm a designer and I feel relevant for what I do, and this is fashion design, and no. This is selling, and it's a completely different thing.
We don't know that yet.
Because we don't really. I didn't see this filter through.
Results haven't come in
onto,
about
like,
whether it's selling,
or people wear this.
and the results aren't in yet
Well,
about growth, and the predicted
Well,
growth
for sure
is
they
not.
have a budget for being, you know, for producing 6 collections a
That
year.
doesn't necessarily mean that it's selling. That's producing something, distributing, and that creates a lot of waste and creates a lot of crap. What we have to do is, in actual fact, is to look at what is actually selling. Figures are in, and we can't do that yet because we have to wait, like you were saying earlier, several years to actually get the double-digit growth in these, and we can only speculate.
To me, what's great about Michele is this is him. I don't think, you know, Marco Bizzarri is saying that I choose the looks or whatever. If you go through Michele's Instagram page or whatever, if you look at him, that he's sprung fully formed like, you know, Venus or something, and it's just bang. Of his first collection, which was done in 5 days, hit every single note, which is now still going there. You know, from the furry shoe to the floral to the funky fit to the whatever to the floppy hats, he's still doing it all. And if you go through his Instagram page and everything, which is very unpublicized compared to the Gucci one, you know, he's an Italian craftsman. He's got, you know, the typical Italian stuff all about La Madonna and all the religious art. He's got his things that are there, and in a huge multinational group, with being a complete unknown. Okay, he was the accessories designer. He's managed to do it. So chapeau to him that he's managed to do that without. I don't think he's selling himself out. I think he's doing what he's
authentic
doing.
What he's doing.
I think he's authentic in his own.
It's a
to
weird,
them,
it's kind of displays.
That's what I'm saying. The cherry picking nature of fashion, where they're like, okay, you're cool. I'll hire you.
Right now,
Let me hire you. But you know, Marco did spot him in the design studio and give him the job, and everybody interviewed for that job. I'm sure 20 of every one of our friends interviewed for that job. So it is quite amazing that he did go for someone internal, unknown, romantic.
But is this
not
the
photographic
is this the new
like a
future
Tom
of
Ford?
luxury though? If you think about it, a lot of things are coming internally because it creates more control.
Well,
I'm not saying that he's not talented.
It's
I
also
actually do
less
think
of a
he
shock.
is.
I mean, look at Alexander Wang at Balenciaga. That lasted not even 3 years. It was like out. It was just like two magnets hitting each other, sort of thing. You know, you can see some of them. So I think there's less risk for them to hire someone internally because at least they have the culture of the company. And less cost because they're not hiring a star. This is where I was going back to. Designers will be entering through the back door eventually because, you know, they'll just start whittling down. I mean, yes, there's star designers who get 5 million a year or whatever. Gasquet gets, but you know, because of his 5 million a year, every other designer wants to quit because they're all jealous and angry.
And I think this is the fact of brands are more associated now with celebrities rather than celebrity designers.
Yeah.
And this is a changing.
Your audience is as important as you are.
Yeah. And if you champion and pay, exactly.
The Bellman.
And you've seen a massive shift in terms of design, in terms of the way that designers are. You know, they're not seen as for their brain anymore. It's seen as their celebrity with celebrities. I find that quite shocking. I find it quite shocking.
I'm wondering, is it old-fashioned because they're insisting on doing this show? Like, I know I've said that before, but to me, like, the point of Gucci, the essence of Gucci, the heart of Gucci is the accessories. So yes, I know that this sells the dream, but essentially this isn't anybody's dream. I mean, what the fuck is it? And like, really, because what is it? Like, who are these people? It doesn't exist.
I was in Hong Kong recently, and I was sitting there, I was in a bar with someone, a mega stylist, and some other people, and literally he was like, I've been to Gucci every day this week to try and get this bag that was in the catwalk.
But that's the point. The badge is the dream. The leather is the dream.
But you have to have a frame to that.
Something.
I don't know if that's true.
But there's a customer I'm questioning.
But it's an institution.
No. I know there's a customer. What I'm questioning is the idea that you can only communicate with the customer through these bizarre clothes, because they're not. Essentially, what they're selling is the leather. So communicate with them about the leather. You know, you are famous because of your shoe. You know, it's a piece of iconography that will never be forgotten. You know, whether it's Britpop, whether it's garage music, that shoe owns a bit of Britain's subcultural style. And maybe you don't need to have these odd clothes to sell a bag.
That's because something was intrinsically cool. The whole point of these big labels is to make something intrinsically cool.
Yeah.
If you're a cool guy and you do something cool on a cool scene in a cool city, it's cool. But you know, that's not Chanel, Prada, Gucci, Louis Vuitton. They have to hire cool people and get them to do a cool thing and then make it look cool by putting it on cool people.
Yeah, but the thing is the whole craft, the whole poetry about the craft, that the whole thing about Alessandro's necklace or whatever and how he looks like an Italian statue or whatever it is, like, it will be cool because he really cares about leather and accessories. And that's what I'm questioning here. Is it that they're actually missing the whole point of their brand, which is craft of accessories? That's the whole point.
Are they like I don't know, dumbing down what they do, basically? Yeah, they are.
What is their split? They're 25% clothes, aren't they? I mean, they're not like 10% like
I think they still. I mean, the fashion show is important because you have to look like you're ticking every single box. Otherwise, they will look.
Didn't you like the Luxford produced little mini movie? I like that. Did you see it? The one where they're all running around the shop?
It was
just got released 3 days ago.
It was a bit like skateboard meets Christian F.
Yeah, it was very Christian F.
I
like that. It was, it was like a bit dazed and confused. I like that as much as I like Tom Ford's this one. Here we go, with them all running around there.
And it's in Berlin.
It just kind of made sense to be more than seeing the clothes on a runway. Seeing it with people with all those really
it's that running to a shopping centre,
hairdos,
which in Christian F is like running. It's heroin chic. Now they've mixed this kind of
they've floralized it.
This floral, whimsical.
It's humanising the product as well.
Like Tom last season.
Do you know what pisses me off about this? Is putting someone on a skateboard doesn't instantly make them fucking cool, and that seems to be the go-to thing about making someone cool. Put on a fucking skateboard. In 10 years' time, we're going to be putting people on a fucking scooter like the kids. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking stupid.
But this and the advert before are fantastic, and they got so much press for these adverts. And I think that, again, that's interesting because it's saying, look, actually they've had more buzz about the adverts in a way. Not more buzz than the show, but almost as much buzz about how fantastic these adverts are than as the show, and I think that's
it's
modern.
Multimedia. It's downloadable. It's shareable. I mean, it's just
on a
everything you
basic
take,
level,
and it looks real.
It looks real. It actually looks
compared
real.
to this stilted runway feeling that we see. Like Tom Ford's Men one with Lady Gaga last season.
But I think it comes down
to doing a show.
People should just watch Christian F and decide what's the best thing about it. It's the Christian F references and it's surrounding of the David Bowie concert.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
I mean?
I know the art director, and I know how much he loves Christian.
Really?
But
yeah, no. What I think is like why that's so successful is because it reaches the customer, whereas like fashion is still kind of stuck in that system where we need a runway show. Is what you're trying to say? Like we need a runway show for people to understand what it's going to do in the store. Like then we have the reviewer that reviews the runway show and tells us what we should be thinking about it. But in the end, like that video probably reaches a lot more people.
It just feels more
that
immediate
actually gonna buy
as
the
well.
product.
It's more, you know,
Emotional.
it has like a vitality to it. There's actually life in it. There's sound, there's movement as well. You know, there's so much more than just seeing like some stills.
It's evocative as well.
Yeah.
Well, and it's where you're going to wear the clothes. You're not going to wear it down a runway. You're going to wear it like in a shopping mall or like.
But it does show that a little Gucci goes a long
And like
way.
now it actually feels aspirational as well. Again.
one thing I'd ask actually, and Samuel, I'm particularly interested in what you think about this. Constantly brands are trying to, and because you said something about how Gucci was always going to be there, right? And I think constantly brands are trying to market themselves as youth. And I get it, because when you're selling a few, like, you know, Louis Vuitton must sell 1 billion of those tiny little bags to quite young girls, right? But these brands are selling themselves to youth, yet
No, they're
I
selling
don't
the
know.
idea of you,
Right.
which is a luxury.
But the people
Yeah, I
buying it,
completely agree.
One
like the
thing
idea
you
of old
can-
money, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
but aren't young people intrigued? I get what you
No,
mean, but
yeah.
aren't young people intrigued by old money? And this, to some extent, this idea of selling everything through young is the opposite of old money.
Yeah, it is. But I think that's more on like the production end and what's going on in the head office is, you know, into what's actually happening on ground level and who's purchasing things. Everyone, I know a lot of people that are buying Gucci bags, but they're buying it to feel like old money. They're not.
But aren't Gucci now trying to revitalise themselves with a new audience? I don't see this as selling to a Gucci who are already buying the bags.
Yeah, it's true.
And this is communicating to a completely new audience.
But
This is the
what I'm
point
saying
of it.
is, do the new audience actually want old money? That's the thing. When you buy it, I'm not sure that.
But they want this lifestyle. Who doesn't want to fucking
But I
dance
think
around?
if you're young, and we've got to define what we're talking about, young, buy vintage.
What were you going to say,
It's
Sebastiaan?
there.
No, I think that like that whole idea of like why they're doing this sort of 70s thing is like it's about freedom and it's about youth, and those things you can't obtain, but you can obtain them through buying into it and in this luxury idea.
And
you
they're
know?
investing in a generation. You can't just instantly in 12 months completely switch everyone off and change everything around. You have to have a 5-year plan. And Gucci are going to have a 3, 5 and 10-year plan about in terms of communication, in terms of investment of their resources, about how they're going to change Gucci around into a new mega power. It's not just going like they're 12 months or sitting around the table and saying, what should we do next month?
Yeah.
This is part of their infrastructure to start. This is what we see in the very start. And what you're going to see in 3 to 5 years is their whole plan and what they're basing their whole strategy on in terms of product, design, communication.
But the only problem is that probably by that time the designers changed. Like they
Well,
come
this
up with a whole new plan.
is what they're
That's
going to have
not
to do. They're going to have to live and die by their own boardroom
Yeah.
decisions,
Yeah.
and not just blame the designer when something doesn't happen, or champion the designer when something great happens.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Because
almost
it's a part of that.
like the issue is now with this is kind of fabricated, is to pitch to a certain audience, but people are aware because of social media now, they don't have to go to a fabricated product. They can go to Supreme, where James is still doing this thing. They can go to Palace, where Lev is still doing this thing. They can go to Off-White, where Virgil's still doing this thing. They don't need to go to these houses to attain what is cool now. Cool isn't much as... I feel like old world cool is much more of like a dictatorship, and that's where it kind of is important to what house is owned by...
But there's cool and there's luxury.
The new world cool is disposable.
Yeah,
Those-
and
those
they
it's
don't
selected
want
too,
to be
you know?
disposable because
Those aren't luxury, those are cool.
It's a process
It's a
that's
tw-
But
very
these
different
guys
thing.
want to be cool though. I don't feel like they're sending me luxury. I don't see any old brown bags. I see like youth You know, I see kids partying on a rooftop. It's like they want to hit those.
I don't know
kids.
if
No,
cool
I don't think
luxury
anybody
is
in
a
that
different thing.
picture would buy those clothes. In their
No,
paycheck.
no,
I
they
think
wouldn't.
but
It's like who they want to hit. with
Cool
that,
and luxury
you know?
is not a different thing. Like,
Yes.
no, Raf Simons, no.
I would like to ask you
Sometimes they
something.
join up.
Rick
guys.
Owens,
But
no.
sometimes, but Supreme to me is super cool. It's not luxury.
Number 9.
It's a freaking baseball cap made in China with a logo on it.
Fizzvin.
And
marked
but
up
the thing is,
3,000
is
times.
what you're
That's
saying,
true.
what
I
you're
mean, it's
saying
really
though
not
is
luxury.
companies, not multi-billion pound stock market companies. You're citing companies that are very cool and they're not billion pound owned
Yes.
by multiple things, and that's when different parts come into play. Like if you're Raf Simons, you're in control of your company.
I need
You
to wrap us up, so I'm going to go through each one of you, just because I've had a few time symbols, so I didn't mean to cut you off. But this is a fantastic chat. So I'm going to start with you, Matthew. So just tell me, what did you think? Like, let's rewind back to the collection. So in context of everything we've said about where luxury is going, what Italian fashion means, what craft means, what the West has compared to like factories in Vietnam, what do you think? How is this show doing in terms of relevance and in terms of job of selling luxury?
It's new. I can't say how it's selling luxury or how relevant it's going to be, but we could be on the edge of a new beginning, or we could be on the edge of a disaster. We don't know. We just have to wait.
Okay. I'm surprised by your...
Cynicism.
No. Why do you think it could be a disaster? Because I mean, so far he's had like massive praise.
Well, we haven't seen any results from financial sales, and it's different. It's cool. It's a different direction. I'm not saying it's not a positive direction. It's very positive for me, but you will live and die by your boardroom in a multinational FTSE 100 business.
Yeah.
You don't. The people in the boardroom aren't saying, "No, that's fucking cool. Give him some extra. Give him a bonus."
I've got insider information that the people in the board, the people that run Gucci, this guy that I know, Italian, he said, "Oh, you know, they're all geeks and nerds," and I was like, "Doesn't surprise me at all. Like, why would that surprise you? It's money."
Look at it. Revenge of the
Exactly.
Geeks.
Samuel,
It's
what's
a key.
what's your summary? How do you think the collection? Like, let's think about the collection and Gucci.
I think the collection is good. I don't think it pulls any connotations to Gucci for me. I think it's just going to run parallel to what they actually sell through. This feels to me more like a PR, like, not to say that his work is like some PR stint, but it feels more like he's been bringing to like revitalise the image that is out there rather than what actually sells through. People are still going to go and buy like the brown bags. Nothing's going to change. That core client is not going to shift to buy like floral bags, you know. So I feel like this collection is just going to run parallel to what already exists at Gucci, almost like a face mask that eventually will be wiped off and replaced. Yeah, that's what I think of it.
Yeah.
So what, you think this is almost exclusively a press exercise?
No, I wouldn't say that his work is like a press exercise, but I feel like the board maybe think that it's good to bring in someone who has like heart and vision for what they're doing, but I don't think this is like I don't see this as like a long-term look for Gucci at all. I don't really feel like this is gonna.
I agree with that point as well. I think if he can evolve, and this is a trend that we're going through now, and if he evolves with the trend, I think he's got longevity. If this is him, he'll die with the trend.
Yeah, this would need to like dilute down, but I don't know if like the ties to like 70s, those nuances are strong enough to really permanently attach to Gucci. They don't really need to. Why do they need to?
Yeah.
You know?
The designer at Costume National said that he thought that androgyny was coming into fashion. I was like, why are you a fashion designer? You should be a history writer. you're what? Like,
but Enzo did, his name's Enzo, isn't it? He used to do thin white dude collections with flares. I mean, I have 3 white suits, I think, by him from his glory days in the early 90s.
Do you know what? A lot of people are basing their whole business models based on this androgyny, like it being revolutionary, and everyone's going to just
the general
completely
neutral
change.
department at Selfridges.
Whereas, exactly. Whereas in actual fact, it's a trend. And is a trend actually, you know, in terms of menswear, women's wear, yes, it's working. If you go outside of London, is the trend actually working? If you go into a nightclub, is this trend working?
Yeah, it's true.
Is some girl gonna fuck a guy wearing a pussy bow blow?
Exactly.
I don't think so, generally.
They did, though, in the 70s, builders did wear makeup. That was, what's it?
Builders wore makeup.
Yeah, you know, what are those people called, the artists who do all the poo? They're always talking about, you know, the British artists, they're like, they do the poo, they live in, Gilbert and George. Gilbert and George always talk about how you had to watch out for, like, glam rock fans because they would...
It's true, but glam rock fans wore it and went to a concert. They didn't wear it every day.
Right.
It was dressing up.
But again,
it wasn't
1%
you didn't go to work as a
1% of the world.
With your, I was going to say Gary Glitter then, but I won't go there.
you know, but you know, like you shouldn't, because I was a bit like this, and then I think about like in Liberia there was that army, wasn't there, that wore women's wear. Like it wasn't Charles Taylor. It was,
but again, it's a trend. Like the Liberian army still don't wear women's wear.
But like, you know, until the Victorian, because I was really saying this, right, and then I checked myself, and then I realised, well, until the Victorian days, like men wore women's wear.
Men were the peacocks.
Yeah.
Men were
men
wore heels, men wore skirts.
It's always about trends when we talk about.
It was a trend.
It's always about trends when we talk about fashion because it's the more superficial side of society, the most immediate because it works with image. But every time there's a trend, there's something much deeper going on.
I don't like the word trend because that implies fashion. To me, these are cultural moments. The whole acceptance of homosexuality,
but they're also
acceptance of transsexuality.
Yeah, I think we are.
I think it's
above that.
The culture's changing,
yeah,
and designers are trying to play catch up in a pastiche visual way. Like, okay, it's okay for some.
So wait! I got to wrap up. Sorry, one second.
Culture will continue to change.
Yeah, it's evolution.
One second. So it's your turn now.
Yeah, I just think that trends are.
But talk to me about trends, and then also give us your review of the collection.
Yeah, I just think that it's quite fair to embrace this role of fashion, even when it's pop culture, to actually narrate a story, even if in a simplistic way, narrate a story about our now. So I'm quite okay with trends. Yes, we will overcome them, but when we go back to them, we will always be able to know why they were there. So yay. About the collection, I think it will probably go well because there's an equipe behind, they know exactly what they're doing, and yeah, I personally don't feel involved as a designer with all of this just because I start from a completely different concept, and also I build my business in a completely different way, but for what that is, I think they're doing a good job.
And as an Italian, you know, a lot of people have told me Gucci is like super hot in Italy. Right
I don't know. As an Italian, I moved to London, so but
fair enough. Mr. Sebastiaan, Pieter.
So I really like Alessandra's vision, but I think with this collection, I like, just because it's been scrolling around it and what we were talking about, you see that it's kind of like being toned down. I think like it's being diluted into more commercial pieces.
Absolutely.
And it's really unfortunate because it's not going to make that statement that they need to be relevant. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of feel like, also from what everyone's saying, I feel like maybe in a couple seasons it'll be done. Yeah.
So, Mr. Patrick Cox.
Mr. Patrick Cox. To me, the fact that we're all sitting here talking about it shows that he's done his job. He was hard to, put the spotlight back on Gucci, and he's put the spotlight back on Gucci. Whether that goes anywhere is yet to be seen. Whether that commercially works is yet to be seen. How he evolves. I mean, if you look at people that are very successful, they seem to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So I don't know. I mean, minimalism over and over and over again works. I don't know if floral over and over and over again works, or people just go, I can't take it anymore. So that's yet to be seen, but, job well done so far.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very, very, very much, panel. That was splendid.
It's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.